What type of lawyer does surrogacy contracts? I've gotten this question a number of times, and people always look surprised when I answer, well, a surrogacy attorney, or fertility attorney, or assisted reproductive technology attorney. The response is always like, those exist? Yep, they do. What's up? I'm Corlandos Scott, a surrogacy attorney in Los Angeles, and that simply means that my practice revolves around helping people grow their families through assisted reproductive technologies like surrogacy. Now, in today's episode, we're going to talk about what exactly is a surrogacy attorney or lawyer and the main legal processes involved in surrogacy arrangements. We'll look at how to find a surrogacy attorney, and we'll even talk about what you need to know about a potential surrogacy attorney in order to qualify them. Let's get started. My professional advice is that you need, if you are going through the surrogacy process, no matter what stage you are in, where you are doing the process, or what the circumstances are, no matter what, you need an attorney for a number of common sense reasons. And I know that sounds self-serving because I'm an attorney, but hear me out. You need one, period. And beside that, most surrogacy-friendly states mandate that you have an attorney, like California, for example. Also, reputable fertility doctors will not perform an embryo transfer without a signed consent form that has been witnessed by a notary public. And your attorney-drafted surrogacy contract typically serves as that consent document that your fertility doctor will need. Now, unfortunately, people hardly ever start the surrogacy process by seeking an attorney. Even the people who go into the process knowing that they're going to need one, they typically place choosing an attorney as the last thing on their to-do list. And some people flat out ask, why do I even need an attorney? Well, if you started on your surrogacy journey, I'm sure this thought has probably crossed your mind at some point in the process. Let's face it, besides used car salespeople, attorneys are probably the least celebrated professionals in the workforce. Yeah, I've made my peace with it. However, when someone has been wronged or think they've been wronged or gets pulled over for a traffic stop, the first thing they say is, I'm calling my lawyer. and I understand that. When you've been wronged, you want the help of someone who can protect your legal rights. And in my practice, I enjoy helping intended parents who feel that they've been done wrong in the surrogacy process. However, when you're at the point of, seeking retribution for being wronged, you always wish that you had sought sound legal advice beforehand. The old saying holds true. Good legal advice pays for itself. In other words, it is much cheaper to hire an attorney to help you navigate the process correctly to begin with than to spend untold hours on cleaning up the mess of relationships, wasted time, and wasted money and things gone wrong on the back end. Now, it's also worth mentioning that each party to a surrogacy arrangement should be represented by their own separate attorney. Now, the reason I say this is because one of the things that factors into the validity of a contract is whether it was an arm's length deal. Now, that simply means that both parties had equal bargaining power and equal representation in creating the terms of the contract. So if the parents have a fancy surrogacy attorney, but the surrogate is on her own with no one to explain the terms of the contract to her, then it won't seem like the terms of the contract were an arm's length deal. Surrogacy attorneys do a number of things in the process of establishing and maintaining a surrogacy arrangement. They establish the rights and responsibilities of each party in the process. They then memorialize those rights and responsibilities by drafting a legal contract between you and the surrogate, and they make sure that their client fully understands the terms of the surrogacy contract that they go on and sign. Now, from the hopeful parent's perspective, your surrogacy attorney should explain to you what your local surrogacy laws and regulations are and how those laws might affect you and your goal to grow your family through surrogacy. Now, I always harp on the fact that different states and countries have different laws regarding surrogacy, so you just can't jump into the process without examining whether surrogacy is even legal where you intend to conduct the journey. Once you've chosen the surrogacy-friendly location where you'll do your surrogacy journey, your surrogacy attorney should ensure that every part of your journey lines up with the specific surrogacy laws of your locale. They should be aware of the particulars like when and how should the contract be signed? Does it have to be signed prior to the embryo transfer? Does it need to be notarized? They should understand that. They should know the workflow between your surrogacy matching agency and your reproductive endocrinologist, your insurance provider, even the company handling the funds for your surrogacy arrangement, the escrow company. And they should definitely help you facilitate communication, coordination between all of them. Now, most of the time, it may seem they're not actively involved, especially during the medical procedures, your relationship with the agency and everything else. But they should be there. They should be able and ready to address any concerns you may have all throughout the process, from day one when you retain them, up to the time when you're celebrating your child's delivery, and maybe even when you're prepping to go through your second or third journey. All right, here's a major key. Your attorney is the only member of your team who exclusively represents you and only you. Did you hear that? Your attorney's only job is to protect your best interests as the parents. Your surrogacy matching agency has the duty to you and your surrogate. After all, they were the one that connected the two of you, right? Also, your doctor has a duty to you because they're accepting payment from you, but they also have a duty to your surrogate because they are administering medical care to her. However, your attorney only has a duty to one person, and that's YOU. Lastly, your surrogacy attorney should be well-versed in the process of establishing your parental rights in the location where you are doing your surrogacy journey. See, the contract between you and the surrogate is just that. It's an agreement between you and the surrogate. But at some point, you have to tell the court what you guys agreed on so that the court can issue a document that essentially says, we, the court, understand that Sally's surrogate delivered a baby. However, we find that legally, the baby Sally surrogate delivered is not her baby. It is the baby of Margaret Mommy and Danny Daddy. Without that document, it's going to be difficult for you to leave the hospital with the baby that you did not deliver. And trust me, I don't want you to be arrested for kidnapping. You know, that's a bad look. And really, there's an intricate and sometimes tricky process for how that parentage order is issued. Now, as a surrogacy attorney who does this on the daily, I'm always surprised at how different the process can be from one state to another and even from one county to another county within the same state. So make sure your attorney understands how to handle this process for you. Now, let's talk about how to find your surrogacy attorney. If you're looking to grow your family through surrogacy, one of the first questions to address is, how do I find a surrogacy attorney? Well, for starters, you could just call me. Seriously, it's so easy. You know, as a matter of fact, you can just click the link in the description below and go to chatwithcorlandos.com and we can start a conversation. Just like that, like for real. But, you know, you also have other options, so keep that in mind too. Keep in mind, you're entitled to the legal counsel of your choosing. So take your time. Choose who you vibe with. You can also search a couple of helpful databases. You can check out the Academy of Adoption and Assisted Reproduction Attorneys. They also call themselves Quad A because it's 4 A's, yeah. But anyway, their website has a database of attorneys. You can search by state, country, practice area even. And you can also check out the website for the American Society of Reproductive Medicine to look for professionals near you. And another way to find a surrogacy attorney is to ask your surrogacy matching agency and your fertility doctors for referrals. This is really an excellent way to get acquainted with surrogacy attorneys, but you should always vet at least a few different attorneys to see who you feel you mesh best with. So even if you do go to chatwithcorlandos.com, and chat with me, still go chat with some other attorneys too. You may notice that your surrogacy agency or your fertility doctor's office only refers you to a few specific attorneys. And you might determine that those attorneys are not the right attorney for you. Well, listen, don't force a relationship because it makes your agency or your doctor more comfortable. It's so important during this journey that you surround yourself with professionals that you know, like, and trust. No matter really what the surrogacy agency or fertility doctor tells you, you get to choose your attorney. You do not have to choose the attorney they tell you to choose. And if they insist that that's a deal breaker, then you should look for a new surrogacy agency or fertility doctor because That's not legal or ethical. Now let's talk about what factors you should use in order to qualify a potential surrogacy lawyer. But before we do, if you're getting something out of this, pay it forward by hitting that like button so that YouTube knows to share this with more people. And while you're at it, just go ahead and subscribe. I mean, you're there anyway. You're right down there by that button. So you do that and you won't miss any of my upcoming videos. And if you know someone who's looking to grow their family through assisted reproduction, then go ahead and share it with them. All right? Okay, so we know we need an attorney, but what do we look for in a candidate? Well, keep in mind that any old attorney just won't do. You need an experienced attorney with a specific focus on assisted reproduction. But I have an uncle who practices family law, Corlandos, you might be saying. They can totally handle this and I'll probably get the good old friends and family discount. Well, my friend, it's not that simple. Now is a good time to mention that there is even a difference between family law and family formation law. We can refer to assisted reproduction as family formation. But there's a difference between family law and family formation law. A family law attorney typically handles legal issues arising from a family that is already established and in existence. So for instance, your local family law attorney likely only handles issues revolving around spousal support, child support, custody, division of assets and liabilities when a person goes through a divorce, termination of parental rights, paternity, dependency, child neglect, child protection from abuse, and maybe even adoption, although adoption is really another specialty that's typically outside of general family law. But none of those areas that I just said specifically address what you'll need in order to successfully accomplish a journey down the surrogacy path. You need an assisted reproductive technologies attorney, aka a fertility attorney, aka a surrogacy attorney, aka a family formation attorney. Why? Because you need someone who's well-versed in what belongs in a surrogacy contract, what the industry standards are. You need someone who is familiar with health insurance issues that may arise and any other ancillary issues in the process. And believe it or not, I have worked opposite attorneys who are very competent in their own particular practice areas, but when they attempt to draft and negotiate a surrogacy contract or any other type of assisted reproductive contract, they're simply out of their element. I remember this one time I had a really savvy business attorney insert a bailment clause into a surrogacy contract. Now, while bailment sounds like a very fancy and legally clever thing to throw in there, you soon give bailment the side eye when you realize that it's just a fancy legal word used for leaving your property with someone else temporarily. It's like when you park your car in a public parking garage and the parking garage says that they are not liable for the damage that happens to your car while it's parked in their garage. You know, just flip that ticket you get over the next time that you go into a garage. It's there in fine print. Well, your baby is not a car, and your surrogate is definitely not a garage. So while you may think you're saving a few dollars by working with good old Uncle Joe real estate attorney or family law attorney, there's a good chance that you'll end up paying for it later in wasted time, wasted money, headaches, and perhaps the worst of all, not being fully protected under your contract. I mean, you would never let a brain surgeon handle your heart surgery, right? Well, I mean, a similar idea applies here. It's simply not worth the risk. So here are a few things to consider when you're looking for a surrogacy attorney. Ask how many surrogacy cases the attorney has handled in the last year or so. Don't overlook the time element of this question. Now, surrogacy is ever evolving, always changing, and all that kind of stuff. So what may have been true about the process 3 years ago may not be the case currently. I've seen courts throw out parentage requests because the attorney used an old form or followed an outdated procedure when filing the request. Another thing to do is find out the extent of the attorney's experience in assisted reproduction. Experience is very important. Now, I wouldn't completely discount an attorney because she's new to the field, but the advantage you get with experience is the foresight and the ability to address potential challenges and problems that might just pop up along the surrogacy journey. But find out also how much their legal services are going to cost you. Find out how much it costs to retain them. Make sure that you get very clear on what the total cost of the services will be. You don't want to play a guessing game when it comes to your checkbook. And they may be able to give you a clear picture of the costs and their services, so definitely ask. Also, make sure that the candidate knows the specifics of your goals and desires for the surrogacy process. No two sets of parents are the same, so your attorney candidate shouldn't simply try to squeeze you to fit into some type of template that they've drawn up, both in terms of the surrogacy contract and in terms of how they handle the workflow for your journey. Now, make sure that you know and they know your specifics, and make sure that they're willing to build their legal services around you specifically. Now, if you're looking for a surrogacy attorney who fits the bill of what I just described, then I invite you to chat with me. Like I said earlier, all you have to do is click the link in the description below to start a chat with me. I look forward to chatting with you. See you in the next episode.